All right, my friends. It's been a while since I've been on here. I just new baby, don't have the time to make videos like some of these other guys. Full time job. I wish I could dedicate more to y'all. Probably gonna get on here a little more consistently, at least twice a week now. The season started. Talk more recruiting, talk about the season, recap games. That's what we're doing today. One thing I'm gonna do just to save myself time because it's just been such a headache is I'm done with the editing part of it. I'll probably put a header up, over the video, but all the other stuff I'm gonna leave out. I'm not great at it anyways. So we're just gonna talk ball basically every week, talk about the game. That's what a lot of these other channels I've noticed have done, and I'm not gonna pay somebody or get somebody who's better at it to edit for me unless the channel just blows up. But I appreciate y'all if y'all tune in, like the video, subscribe to my channel. Makes doing these videos worth it. I'm not going to sit here and throw it in y'all's face or throw it in my followers' face that, I know a lot of people are more optimistic, and I even bought the hype. A lot of Gator pods and channels were really hyping up the Gators. Everybody was really starting to buy in. It really happens, about the first week or two before the season. Everybody gets that hopium and it gets all fired up. We went from 6 wins to 7 to 8 wins. Oh man, we can win 9. And I was really starting to buy that narrative a little bit, just hearing the players and the coaches talk. But that happens every year, and I can't believe I actually fell for it. Because before that, I was very realistic and very honest about this team's flaws and weaknesses, including Billy himself. As a fan, I'm hoping we go undefeated every year. I'm hoping everybody balls out. But as somebody who wants to cover the team or talk about the team unbiased, even as a fan, I probably I try to be in the middle, but I know I'm a little more on the negative side a lot of times. And negative can be some people what other people call negative. I call realistic expectations and just realistic about the team and what it is itself. That game against Utah on Thursday was an abomination, guys. It was putrid. There were a few positives, but there's a whole lot more negatives and question marks than we got answers. So very, very concerning to see that. And I'm sure y'all feel the same way. I saw a lot of guys' comments, on other channels that had dropped on my channel a little bit, really pointing out some of the things that I had talked about from last season, with the play calling, the offensive line, the quarterback position, the creativeness, special teams, creative play calling not being there, the structure of the staff. I mean, there's just so much that just has not gone right. I mean, 6-8 right now at Florida. We should have never only won 6 games last year. There was enough talent on this team to win 7 to 8 games his first year. He underachieved, and I blame that on him, uh, strictly based on his personnel decisions and his play calling. Is what lost us those games. And the defense being putrid, not making adjustments on defense. That's Patrick Toney's fault. That is one of the positives I'm going to bring up and tell y'all about from the game. We're going to talk about. I'm sure y'all have already listened to 100 Gator channels. Mine's kind of one of the last ones to come out. But yeah, man, offensive line right off the rip. Worst part of the game to me, besides special teams, just communication was terrible, picking up protection. I mean, they were getting bullied. I watched a couple replays. The ball snapped. These guys were backpedaling immediately, just getting blown off the ball. The collapse snap, I freaking hate it. I'm done with it. I'm tired of it. Just use a regular cadence. It doesn't work for us. We got to delay a game. It just drop it. You're in a stadium. It's loud. They brought the noise up, which is a joke. It's half the size of almost every SEC stadium. That's never been a problem in the past. So that's a you issue, Billy, if you're worried about the communication and crowd noise in Utah. He did bring that up during the presser, so that was concerning for me. Um, Offensive line recruiting has got to get better, guys. That was the biggest, weakest link on the team that I saw last night. It's been putrid, even with Hevesy. We've got 2 offensive line coaches who are proven, who are not getting the guys we need. We've got 1 or 2 decent recruits in this class, but it's still not good enough. It's not good enough to compete with Bama's, Georgia's, LSU, the teams we got to beat. So offensive line recruiting is so important. We've got to stack talent there and get this team where we want them to be. The portal strategy in the offseason was so putrid to me, who we brought in compared to other schools. We brought in guys, again, like I said, the ones that played in this game, half of them were terrible. Moten was awful. You're talking about guys who lost their job at their prior school and were here for that reason and that reason only. I try to bring that up. A lot of guys I know, oh, second chance. It works out sometimes, but most of the times, if a guy leaves because he's not happy in a situation, these were guys that just left because they were beat out at their prior stops. There's a few guys that were good. Nunnery had a really nice game. I actually thought he was a nice piece when they brought him in. A little underrated, but he was also a starter and a proven starter at Houston. So he did well. But you look at teams like Colorado, Duke, what they were able to do through the portal and win right off the rip, game one, first year coach, and beat a top 20 team. I don't want to hear it about the program building and culture. It can be done if you want to get it done. If you're committed to doing it and winning now, it can be done. And Billy is just not that guy. He's a process guy. So whether you got patience or not, we're going to have to and hope that he can turn this around. I have a lot of doubts now, especially after that first game, in the offense. So we'll just have to see what happens. Culture to me is not as big of a thing or as important as it used to be in college football, especially with the portal now. These guys are not, they're not loyal, they're not faithful. So there's no point in trying to be a culture person, as a coach. You recruit to win. It's free agency. This is the NFL now at the amateur level. So it's a business. It's about business decisions. It's not about building a big happy family. We're not going to be Butch Jones 2.0, and that's what Billy has been so far. Talks about doing things the right way and all that. Gator fans want to see the ball slung around the field. We want to see touchdowns. We want to win ball games. I don't care if guys are doing community service or whatever. That's great and all, but that's not what you care about as a fan. We want to see points on the board. We want to see W's. Mertz, as hard as I was on him, I still think there were so many better options. McCall, Pratt, Hartman in the portal. He wasn't the problem in this game. He was actually decent, and I think he can be serviceable and do well for us, but he's not going to win us games. And he could still lose us games, but he's not going to win us games right now. So we'll just have to see what happens with him and how he develops. Yeah, so Mertz, I thought he was pretty solid. Had a touchdown, beautiful throw to Douglas. A lot of people say it was a better catch. It was a beautiful catch. Douglas played a good game, needs the ball more, good hands. But that was a perfect throw. He put it where it's a jump ball where his receiver could go get it, made it hard for the DB. The interception, I'm going to put that on him and Ricky. Bad communication, didn't put the ball in a good spot and just fired too early. Hit him on the wrong side of his shoulder. Those kind of interceptions are going to happen. It wasn't egregious, but it was definitely on both of them. We just got something to keep an eye on. He did throw a lot of picks at Wisconsin, so hopefully that's not a trend that continues. Hopefully we can keep that, have some games where he doesn't throw any picks at all. We don't need a pick or two picks a game. That was kind of what he averaged at Wisconsin sometimes with how many he threw into bad spots, trying to push the ball too much. But I think he's a good, solid game manager, and I think he can be successful if the guys around him can play better and the play calling is more creative and just gets better, period, overall. 31 of 44 for 333, a touchdown, interception, but here's the key stat. I think he was sacked like 5 times. He's not as mobile. Now you see what Anthony Richardson did for this offense, even though Billy held him back in a lot of ways and held this team back with the play calling. He didn't adapt to Anthony's strengths. You look at the success he's having already in the NFL. It kind of is exposing Billy in a way. But I thought Mertz is capable enough of running the ball. I mean, he did have a couple nice runs. I loved his grittiness. He's a super tough kid. Got back up, so that's a good sign for this team. I think he's a big-time leader. 7.8 yards or 7 and so yards per play or per throw is not very good. That means we were throwing, at the line of scrimmage a lot, which I just thought was very uncreative. Again, especially on third and distance, throwing behind the sticks all the time. I mean, that goes back to the play calling and decision-making by Billy. Just putting us in really tough spots is just absolutely crazy. Gator Dave pointed out, how successful we are sometimes on first down. But then on third, it was like average of 10 yards to get to the marker. So just really bad just to get into the sticks. With these pass concepts, just either routes that were too far down, that took too long to develop. I mean, or just too short. You know, the shovel pass to Dante Lang. I mean, the play call is not awful there, but it's like, get the ball to one of your playmakers, a running back, Tony Livingston. Somebody else needs the ball. You know, Eugene Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, and you give it to Xanders. I mean, one of the slowest guys on the freaking team, man. I mean, come on. I mean, that's just who is making those decisions. I mean, we got to be better than that as a staff. Got to do better. He was sacked way too many times. That goes back to poor offensive line play. Um, you know, the offense just sucked, period. It just wasn't good. I'm hoping it can get better, but, you know, there's just a lot of changes that need to be made. The SEC as a whole, to me, I want to bring this up, was pretty suspect as a whole. 12-3, week one, solid, but the other conferences, you know, looked a little more up than the SEC to start the season off. Week one can be a complete mirage. Florida could turn this around, so let's give them the chance, the opportunity to play better. Obviously, we're going to get a W this week. It needs to be convincing, 50-something to nothing. Let's get a shutout. That would be a nice turnaround, and then play Tennessee solid, get the upset. Big win in the swamp. That would be great. You know, there's going to be a lot of big-time recruits. All of our big names left on the board. You know, big-time offensive linemen coming in town, and Seton. You know, McCray. All those guys are coming to the Tennessee game. Really don't need to get embarrassed. Needs to at least be a competitive, you know, one-score game at a minimum. Let me say this. The defense, I thought the defense was solid. I'm super excited about this defense. They're going to keep us in games. Armstrong is a stud. His future is bright. I am not worried about the defense at all. You know, again, I might be overhyped because, you know, it is week one. Like I said, they could be a complete flop the rest of the year. But based on, you know, all the man we played that Tony wouldn't do, and just adjustments after halftime, this defense held Utah in check. Besides the busted coverages and the big plays, the safety play was suspect. You know, but man, the young guys shined. I think it's time to move on from some of the transfers and some of the veteran guys on this team and just have the youth movement. Let's play the young guys. Castell, you know, played a really good game. He did have a hiccup, but you're going to have those freshman mistakes. Let's see, look at my notes here. Edge is weak as a whole. TJ Searcy and some of the young guys, Kelby Collins, those guys need more reps. Yuma Million, man, I predicted him as a breakout player last year. He has not showed up. Where was he at in this game? He did absolutely nothing. Gap control, night and day better. Defensive line held the point of attack, stopped the run. The defense as a whole, like I said, guys, super excited about it. I thought they could easily be a top 50 unit this year, which isn't, you know, elite or anything. But heck, we were dead last. I mean, worst defense in the country, or next to it last year. So top 50 would be, you know, night and day difference, and be a massive step forward. You know, need to get more pressure off the edge, get more pressure on the quarterback. Definitely didn't see a lot of that in this game. That was my biggest concern on the defense. If they can improve that and fix that going forward, which I think they will, get more pressures and send more guys, I think this defense could do big things this year if the offense could just catch up. Like I said, Collins and Searcy are going to have big careers here at Florida. So you look at his valuations in high school recruiting, man, he's crushing it there. I'm not worried about that, but the portal strategy's got to get better. Got to do better there. Eugene Wilson, an absolute stud, electric. The ball has got to get in his hands more. I know it was game one, so I expect Billy to be smart enough to play this kid, you know, and give him a ton of reps. He did make a bad mistake catching that punt, and then having the two number threes on the field was just egregious. Another bad moment for Florida. Another black eye on Billy Napier and his organization. You know, Ricky Pearsall, great receiver, super happy he's a Gator. But let's face it, he's supposed to be our number one guy. Eugene Wilson needs to be that guy. Pearsall on most teams is a solid, very solid number 2, 3 receiver. But, you know, number one, not so much. I don't think he's elite. I just think he's a really good, shifty guy. You know, 8 players were missing for Utah, and this game should have been won by Florida. We had way more talent, had the veteran quarterback. You know, like I said, the defense played good enough to win this game. Just the procedural stuff, the penalties, the undisciplined. I mean, we left so many points on the board. even though the offense was as bad as it was, we still were in the red zone plenty of times to score and just shot ourselves in the foot and gave points away on that punt to Utah that would have been Florida ball, at least at the 25 if he fair catches it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just one of them things that's got to get better. Everybody on Florida's side was picking Florida to win this game, and it was there for the taking. So that's super disappointing to know they couldn't get it done with 8 of their best players not on the field. I mean, QT, the tight end, the quarterback, defensive end. I mean, the list goes on. They played a young guy at tackle, freshman on the offensive line, which is also concerning that we couldn't get pressure because of that. 2 guys the same jersey number. I mean, where is the special teams coordinator? I'm done with this model that's different from everybody else. I'm done with the 2 offensive line coaches. Get rid of one of them. Get a special teams coordinator. We need an offensive coordinator bad. Billy needs to give up play calling. Been saying that since last year, and it's more of the same. Just super unimaginative. Tired. Don't want to see 12 personnel. Don't want to see 11 personnel with a tight end that's getting the ball. I want to see 11 personnel with receivers out wide and the ball going to our playmakers, not a slow tight end who just had a knee injury, who played great for himself, but just not explosive. You're going to throw a 4-yard pass to Odom, who, just got off a knee injury, who's super slow. I mean, he should be a red zone threat, and that's it. Not a guy you're trying to get yardage on 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 10. So, some of the other notes I had here, let's see. This ain't Louisiana. It seems like the job is too big sometimes for Napier to me. I think he seems a little shell-shocked, especially when I see what happened in game 1 with all the mistakes that were made. I mean, he's just getting raked over the coals through the media right now. I think he's a smart man. He's not a good talker the way he talks in his interviews. Am I right? Am I right? About everything he says. Doesn't convey or articulate things with any substance when he's talking about changes that need to be made. He just says, I need to coach better. We need to play better. So that's a little concerning for me. I would like to hear a more detailed answer about what you're going to do to fix things. Definitely need to ditch the 2 offensive line coaches. Got to clean up the penalties. I think the offensive line can be fixed. I'd like to see Lindell Hudson. I'd like to see him get a shot at tackle. I'd like to see Mizuko back at right guard or left guard, whichever spot he originally played at Baylor. So they need to make some changes on the offensive line. There's definitely some issues there. Strickland, was at the press conference. He was at the last press conference too. So I think he's really watching things and keeping an eye on things to see how they go. He's obviously not getting fired this year, but I will tell you this. I don't think Sass, being a football guy, is going to let things slide with the AD or the coach if Florida doesn't make drastic improvement this year. Billy's talked about how they're more comfortable and more confident in the system. Things are running smoother. I didn't see that in game 1. If this team wins 2 games and beats McNeese and Charlotte, it goes 2-9 or 10 or whatever, and they lose every game the rest of the year, he will be fired after this season. He's not getting a year 3. I don't care how much money his buyout is. It happens all the time in college football. If this guy only wins 2 games this year, he's done. If he can win 5 or more games, he probably keeps his job. He has to keep his job. They're going to give him year 3. I think his buyout's like $31.5 million. So he's not going anywhere. But I have faith in him that he's going to do his best to get things turned around. Will that actually happen? I don't know. I love his recruiting, but he's got to, he says he self-reflects and self-evaluates. I hope he's got enough humility to give up the play calling at some point if things don't start to get better. Let's see. Played a lot of freshmen. We talked about that. I want to see more freshmen playing. We have more talent than Utah. Hire an offensive coordinator. We talked about that. The routes take too long to develop. High school offense. Said that before. Screen game's not creative. He did add that. There was more short, quick passes in different ways. Mertz missed some of those swing passes out to the running back. He missed them badly, actually. So I'm hoping that he improves on that because a couple of those were open. Montreal Johnson needs to see the ball more. I mean, your running backs get a handful of carries, and they're the best 2 playmakers on our team. I mean, that's got to have y'all asking questions too, man. I know Utah dictated some of that, but it was successful towards the beginning of the game, and we just completely abandoned it. And Mertz throwing 40-something times in a game is not a recipe for success. The orbit motion, I mean, I know y'all see Ricky running back and forth in the formation all the time. No one on the defense bites on it. No one moves. No one's buying that. It's not doing anything. Get rid of it. It literally does nothing to create success for Florida's offense. Kicker sucks. Got one on scholarship, and he's not even our starting kicker in Trace Mack. He does kickoffs, got a big leg, but apparently he's super inaccurate, which says a lot because Mihalik missed one and made one. Like I said, this game, the score, a lot of people are saying the score wasn't as close as actual game. I actually think it was closer. I mean, you get another field goal. That's 12, 14 points right there, so 24-14. We're in the red zone another time, so that's another field goal. So like I said, I mean, 24-17 or possibly a touchdown there. I mean, this game was closer than what the score indicated, in my opinion. So I do think Florida can fix a lot of these issues and be a better team than what we saw in the Utah game. And I still think I'm definitely coming off of that 8 wins now. I'm hoping so bad for 7 or 8 wins. But right now, this looks like a 5-6 win team, like what Vegas had us at. And I hate to say it, guys, but there's potential there that this team could actually only win, 3 or 4 games, which would be nightmare scenario. Watching our rivals like Georgia and FSU ascend to the top. I mean, we could potentially see a Georgia FSU title game. That's sickening, guys. FSU steamrolled LSU, and they looked elite doing it. They have guys everywhere on the field. Wilson, Travis. It was just sickening. It was like a gut punch watching them play. It was so bad. Florida's been so bad for so long now. My son is actually talking about being an FSU fan. He's only 10 years old, and I railed on him for him. I'm like, don't be a bandwagon fan, dude. Come on, man. You got to stick with your program, thick and thin, down times and good times. But that's how bad things have been. All he's ever known is Florida really being pretty terrible, besides a couple good seasons with Mullen. But, yeah, so I really hope Florida gets a turnaround because I hate seeing our rivals just crush it. Tennessee's doing well. They definitely look beatable, though. I was not super impressed with Joe Milton, 200 yards. He overthrew a lot of balls. I mean, Florida should have a couple interceptions in that game, in my opinion, because the plays were there to be made. I mean, we could not get any luck in the Utah game. We had fumbles that we should have recovered. We had a pick that we dropped. So there was a lot of momentum to be taken there by Florida. We just couldn't capitalize on it. So the game looked closer to me. Special teams being called the game changers is an absolute joke. I wish they'd never called our special teams that. I wish Billy would have never said that because the only thing they do to change a game is in a negative way. But that's really all I got, guys. So that's my recap for Utah. McNeese State, not going to really say much about them. They got beat by Tarleton something State, 50-something to 30-something. So Florida should steamroll them, but they really need to work on Florida in that game and not beating themselves, playing clean football and putting up a lot of points. Make some adjustments, add some new wrinkles to the offense. I want to see them run the ball in this game and like Florida to win big here and go into that Tennessee game 1-1 and hopefully can capitalize on the momentum and beat Tennessee to open SEC play. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate the support. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to try to get you guys more content. Like I said, I'm going to stop the editing. Go Gators.